Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Nordic Sound. After quite a long hiatus, we return today joined by Mr. Josh Rood himself of Icelandic blackened death metal, whatever you want to call it, band Nexion. Josh, welcome to the Nordic Sound. How are you doing today, man?
Good. Thanks for having me. I don't even know how many of your listeners even know who I am.
Oh,
There was not a
probably.
proper. I'm Mr. Josh Rood, of which some people know of and some do not know of.
There's a
Um,
lot of
but
crossover, but yeah. Well, I think people will
yeah,
get to know you over the course of this conversation. Do you think?
well, they will. They will know me. Um, well, aside from Nexion, the black and extreme whatever metal, my musical outlet. I have this. I'm not really sure what it is yet, to be
Hmm.
honest. It's a platform
Hmm.
that I've been playing with. It started a couple years ago, just being on social media and having opinions. I,
Which you are quite good
I-
at.
yeah, but let me like also say uh opinions that are informed.
Hmm.
Because aside from being a musician, I'm also a researcher of Old Norse religion, and I've
Hmm.
been involved with, uh, yeah, so that's sort of what I do
Hmm.
is that. So of course I have very strong opinions on Old Norse religion and the uses of Old Norse religion and
Hmm.
also culture, and
Hmm.
I also crossover with a lot of indigenous thinking and stuff
Hmm.
like that. So I have lots of opinions, and at a certain point, I was like, I should try to create a platform from
I should
which
free my
to
opinions from
project my
comment
opinions.
sections. Yeah.
Yeah. So I came up with the Eagle on the Ash, which is a reference to, it's actually a little bit of a crossover itself to
Hmm.
some in indigenous traditions where an eagle sits on top of the tree
Hmm.
where the people come together, but also primarily the eagle that has no name that sits on top of Yggdrasil.
Hmm.
And so, in all of my arrogance, I decided I would spew the knowledge from the world tree, and I use it to like occasionally when I have the energy,
Hmm.
put on Zoom classes or
Hmm.
to use it to promote knowledge. But I only do it when I have the, how do you put it? I'm not an influencer. I do it when I have something I want to say.
Yep. Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, yeah. And lately I've had I gave a class at Midgardsblut
Hmm.
on uh the, the Nordic spirit world and land
Hmm.
connection. Um, and now I'm doing that again. So I've been preparing for that just to give it on Zoom.
Hmm.
And I'm also giving a class at the Norwegian Åsatrú.
Hmm.
Also for the, I'm sure all of your listeners know what Åsatrú
Yeah.
is. So
Most. Yeah.
the Norwegian Åsatrú organization,
Hmm.
they asked me to give a talk on the old Yule
Mm.
traditions. So that's what
Festive.
I've been up to. Yeah, so when I'm not screaming into a microphone,
Yeah.
I'm doing ceremonies
Hmm.
or I'm lecturing.
Yeah, man. Because even though this is a music podcast, we by the nature of the people I have on, we sort of like rub shoulders with spirituality and religion. Even though I'm not a scholar of religion, it comes up a lot when you're talking about uses of Old Norse cultural heritage and music. So, these are
Yeah.
things that listeners of the Nordic Sound have been introduced to and might explore on their own. But yeah, I just wanted to sort of use the eagle on the ash as a segue to also say that you're a little bit more than a just a singer, right? Yeah, so you're pretty situated and rooted into the academic side of things as well. Uh, yeah, so cool. Thanks for that little detour. Let's get talking about Nexion and Sundrung because you guys have been making quite a splash with this album. You've been making quite a lot of impressions with it. So we just already sort of teased a little bit of blending spiritualities or mythologies, story worlds, whatever you want to call them. And I definitely want to get to that later. But I think, like, just starting off, so Nexion already had this album out. Seven oracles that I was listening to for a while. So when Sundrung came out, I was pretty stoked to dive into it, especially because you and I talked to Cascadia quite a bit about the background and all of that. So I guess where we would start with Sundrung is what was like just the basic concept or inspiration going into this album?
You know, um, I don't know if other musicians have said similar things to
Mm-hmm.
this, but uh, since Nexion is a five-man band,
Mm-hmm.
um, we're drawing from so many threads
Mm-hmm.
that so much of there's not even a point where I know where the inspiration started. But eventually I'm the one who writes all the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
And so but what I try to do is I actually have to wait before I start writing lyrics until I start hearing what they're coming up with.
Yep.
Because we've always had this thing where the music, Nexion, has got to be from the heart. We take it from its emotion first,
Mm-hmm.
actually,
Cool.
and then the logic. The creative agency, which is emotion, not
Mm-hmm.
logic, I would
Yeah.
say, that has to be first.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, I don't know at what point I had some bubbling ideas, but for example, Seven Oracles was very well. We are quite misanthropic in general, but with Seven Oracles, I if you read the lyrics or looked at it or whatnot, I actually avoided the whole Nordic thing
Mm-hmm.
for the most part. That was a conscious decision. It
Mm-hmm.
was a logical point where I wanted to avoid the Nordic thing.
Was it kind of like separating what you do for a living from
No,
art, or
because
no?
as you
Okay.
probably know, I'm more than an academic too. I'm
Yep.
also very spiritually invested
Mm-hmm.
in I'm not gonna say Ásatrú, but the old Nordic knowledge systems and
Mm-hmm.
such.
This thing that we all like talking about but don't have a word for. you know?
Because none of us want to identify
Yeah.
with the words that exist, because we don't want to identify with the other people who identify with
Yeah.
them. But so
Beautifully said.
that thing. So during that time,
Mm-hmm.
after Seven Oracles, COVID came, and
Perfect
and
timing.
that created a lot of distant. Well, COVID came right when we released the fucking thing. Maybe we brought it, and and then but that gave me a lot of time to be distant,
Mm-hmm.
and that actually created a lot of inner sort of rethinking myself because I had so much time where because every band, every person dealt with COVID differently.
Mm-hmm.
We we broke down. We all got depressed and couldn't do anything for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then after time, we started to pick things up again. We got a new drummer and things, but there was a long period of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a lot of reflecting in that time, rethinking myself, rethinking my approach, um, looking at tropes that you don't really sometimes realize that you're following. Like maybe you're doing something and you you do it because everybody else does it, but you never stop to ask yourself, why am I doing it? Um, and other stuff. And one of the things that I did was Simon Oracles had its purpose,
Mm-hmm.
but I really struggled to really express what I wanted to say because I was avoiding the story worlds and the knowledge system that I know the most about and have the most passion in.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I did it was I made a logical point of I don't want to get lumped into Viking metal. But that's a stupid way to approach music because you need to approach music from a you need to be very honest to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of realized that. And so with Sundrung, before I started writing music, before I started writing lyrics, I had already decided you need to just be honest and approach it from your true self.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that meant using a lot of Nordic and some indigenous material,
Mm-hmm.
and just being honest to myself. So that was there when I started writing the lyrics. Um, but a lot of the details of the theme took shape upon listening to the types of emotions that the other guys were putting into the music and because at the end of the day, what I'm trying to do is put images and words to the emotions that the musicians are creating.
Hmm.
So I had to wait for them. So it was a process, is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, it's
So
always a process.
yeah,
Yeah.
but eventually the process did a vision did take form. I
Hmm.
just don't know when that was.
Yeah, because what you're talking about, I think, is very relatable for a lot of musicians that especially mix their music with their personal spiritualities.
Mm,
Because those tropes that you talked about, I thought that was just. I've never actually had someone talk about tropes on this podcast before in such a direct way. We're like, am I doing this because I want to, or am I doing this because this is just how it's always been done and this is what people do? And,
right.
I just feel like that's pretty relatable to musicians in general. Because especially, it's funny because all genres that become so countercultural, like black metal and like punk, always eventually become their own culture with its own
Yeah.
norms and standards. And like,
Yeah.
a lot of people make fun of the fact that like black metal started off so anti-establishment and all of this, but then all of a sudden it's like everyone's got a uniform.
It's the
Everyone,
most conformist. I think of all the fucking metal genres, black metal is ironically, on the one hand, it is still pushing barriers there because there are some
hmm
musicians and there are the individual musicians who are in bands that are
hmm
really doing creative stuff.
hmm
But there is that giant foundation that has got to be the most conservative
hmm
stylistically. I
hmm
mean,
hmm
well, maybe
Well,
politically
yeah, we
for a lot
can.
of them.
It could go either way.
But it is the most sheepish
hmm
of the metal genres, I think
hmm
sometimes.
Yeah.
And we were never. I don't think Nexium was ever like that.
hmm
Like from the beginning, we were like, well, okay, corpse paint. Why? Uh,
Go do a photo
it
shoot in
it
the woods.
it looks stupid 99% of the time. 1% of the time it looks good, and that's why 99% of the other times people try to do it and it just looks idiot. But if we ever had a reason, like
hmm
we just sort of decided to just um always try to think of having a reason before you do anything and
hmm
try to be reflective. So like we didn't wear any corpse paint because we didn't have or paint or anything like that.
hmm
Now I've started to do some things, but it's not corpse paint.
hmm
But that's because time goes on and ideas start to come in that feel authentic.
hmm
Yeah, so one of the big things was vocally and thematically. I know a lot of metal musicians don't even I think a lot of fans of metal don't even care about the lyrics, but I do.
That's a
I
good
very
point, but
much
also
do.
because you have to sing them.
Yes, and only maybe 1% of the people out there actually listen to those lyrics, but that 1%, I get great feedback, and
hmm
there are people that relate to what I'm saying, and that means a lot to me.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, like I can just tell you, to me, I mean, even though I'm listening to the lyrics, what really makes a difference to me is like the right lyric at the right time that like
yeah,
adds to the impact of a particular moment in a track, right?
yeah,
And just to your point, so many times throughout listening to Sundrung, it was just like the right enunciation on the right word because for a lot of this style of music the words are also just like the sound, like we'll sing
yeah.
nonsense so long as the sound is like vicious or percussive or whatever. And there's so many times on this new album where like I don't even know what you said leading up to a word, but you lay down this word at just the right moment, and I'm just like, so absolutely. Even if we're not listening to what the lyrics mean, I feel like we are at least subconsciously listening to what the lyrics sound like, even if it's not the
Yeah.
words themselves and their meanings. Yeah.
It's very true, actually. A lot of my favorite songs or bands or whatever, I don't read the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
I do if I get the chance,
Mm-hmm.
but often I don't. But there's always those half understood choirs that I'm chanting along with and saying something different. But there are certain words that I know, and they're awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I can I don't know which words of mine other people understand because I don't get
Yep.
to have the outside experience, but
Mm-hmm.
I can I can think of other bands and moments where it's like that. So
Yeah, because I think we could go to the other extreme when we're not even using words. What I'm thinking of, like, the two slogans of black metal are "bleh" and "ugh," right? And I feel like, those aren't words; they don't mean anything. But a well
well,
placed "bleh" like
yeah,
just puts me
I
down.
have I have a that I'm quite proud of in Sundrung.
Yeah, you should have. Yeah, I actually,
So,
I saw the Angry Metal guy. Not to fluff you up too much, but his review called you one of the best vocalists in black metal right now.
oh
And
yes,
yeah, and
yes.
I'm in, like,
I
dude, I have such a weakness for that. I will compare you to Behemoth just because, like, and also on the topic of Angry Metal guy, best. I don't know if you read any of the comments under that review. Someone, this is beautiful. Someone said, "This is what Behemoth would sound like if Nurgle wasn't so far up his own ass."
yeah.
And I, I had to sit there and just for just a minute, like, just think about it. I was like, I think it's right. I think it's right. But yeah,
So now
dude, the
I have to sit here and
vocals.
go.
Yeah. How can I get stuck up my own ass, right?
Yeah, yes. No, no, I'm gonna sit here and not make any comments about
Oh, I know. Yeah, you
Adam
got PR. I'm allowed to.
Darcy.
I'm allowed to.
No, no, but yeah, no, there's also a rule in my band that nobody's ever allowed to compliment me. So
it goes too
I
quickly to
have
his
to
head.
outsource it. So thank you.
Yeah, man,
So
outsource all you want. No, that's actually a good rule. I can, yeah,
yeah, no, you're never allowed to compliment the vocalist.
that's good.
Um,
Or and then if you compliment the bassist, they don't even know what to do with it, and they just shut down out of fear. Like, I'm
well,
speaking as a bassist. That's what happens. If a bassist gets a compliment, it's just like paralysis. Like, oh,
well,
thank
our
you.
bassist doesn't deserve any compliments because no, I mean, well, he didn't. He wasn't on the album.
Oh, you.
Yeah, no, our guitarist wrote. We were doing some. We didn't have a bassist at the moment, so our
Yep.
guitarist wrote the. So
I figured there was some
he didn't
inside
deserve
stuff
any
there.
compliments. No, but
Ah,
yeah, no, it was really cool
mm-hmm,
to read that because um I am a very competitive person,
mm-hmm.
uh, but but but
That's
more
why we
because I
love you.
always want to. Yes. But aside from that, and it was just very cool to read. I mean, of course, Angry Metal Guy is one of those sites that I go to when I want to read reviews,
Mm-hmm.
and they hadn't reviewed Seven Oracles, and so I remember when Seven Oracles came out and they didn't review it, and I was like, I guess we're just not famous enough. Uh, but then when he reviewed Seven Oracles, he said he missed, or sorry, when he reviewed Sundrung,
Mm-hmm.
he said he missed Seven Oracles, and it was just very cool to get a compliment like that.
Yep.
Um, but in honesty, it was one of the coolest things about that was um, going back to me saying I had decided to be a little bit more honest to myself.
Mm-hmm.
You may have noticed a much wider variety of vocals in
Yep.
Sundrung than Seven Oracles.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the conscious decisions I made where I was like, I need to do what the gut or the heart tells me to do. And if that means and that eventually created a much wider, because I can do more than what I did in Seven Oracles, but I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't let myself because I had to fit this bubble that we had created. And with Seven Oracles, I said, fuck that, I'm just going to do what feels right. And
Yep.
then and then I was terrified. I wasn't terrified, but um the clean singing, I'm much more comfortable
Mm-hmm.
making harsh vocals. I'm not very comfortable singing in front of people.
I'm right there with you.
Uh, um, and so that one I was like, all right, oh, and my own band had hazed me to death about my own clean singing. So I believe actually side story to this, one of the
Mm-hmm.
reasons why I was terrified of what the reviews might say about my clean singing was the very first thing our guitarist said. Gander, our song Gander,
Mm-hmm.
has this chant at the end that now I'm quite proud of. But when I had the idea, it was in my head, and I was like, I have this idea, I can't let it go. So I recorded just like a phone recording blueprint
Mm-hmm.
to send to my band, and let them, because I live in Norway, they live in Iceland.
Hmm.
So this is how we exchange ideas. And our guitarist's reaction was, "What the fuck? It makes me want to stab a fork into my eardrum."
Who's laughing
And I was
now?
like, "Fuck you guys, I'm doing it anyways." And then, and yeah, so I went into it waiting for reviews of the singer makes me want to stab out my eardrums. So,
Yeah,
but it
who's
didn't happen.
laughing
So that
now?
was it was cool. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Awesome, man. Yeah. Before we get talking about the other vocal style, right? The didgeridoo. I just want to
yeah,
talk the name real quick. Sundrung.
yeah,
Yeah. What do you want to say about that?
yeah. No, it was, I don't know. It was just when it came, it was perfect.
Hmm.
The name was the last thing to come.
Hmm.
But by the time, because obviously it's like the cap on top,
Hmm.
and it fit the concept because what I back to the idea of the theme and the ideas. I don't know when and how they came up with their ideas, the rest of
Hmm.
the guys, but it was a process where they're sending me riffs and stuff, and I'm sending them back ideas, and we're extending parts, shrinking parts, da 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 da. But the theme slowly took shape. With Seven Oracles, I had had this idea. It was based on this notion that um, there is this idea that modern people, well, people have had for a long time. It's
Hmm.
very prevalent in the big religions, and they've leaked from the big religions into modern society, where people are so narcissistic and they don't realize it.
Hmm.
Humans think we have so much value. We think we have inherent value. We think we have God-given value.
Hmm.
We think we have a purpose.
Hmm.
So this is why there's this funny thing where people are always asking, "What's God's purpose for me?" Like people
Hmm.
will literally have crisis of faith.
Hmm.
Like not me, but like people that come from they will because they don't know what their purpose is.
Hmm.
You don't have a fucking purpose. You don't have a purpose. You don't have a fucking purpose. But that means to me this is freeing because
Yeah.
you
Hmm.
you create your purpose. And I don't mean you create your purpose in a super, well, you can in a super anarchist way where you
Hmm.
just fuck everything. But I don't think that that is the case. But the point with Seven Oracles was I was looking at all these prophetic or revealed religions or spiritualities or ideas have always throughout history been about human value, raising it up above the other
Hmm.
beings on the planet, right? And these are usually revealed through angels or spirits or God or burning bushes or although that burning bush I think told Abraham to kill his kid, but I think some burning bush told some
Some
guy in a
burning bush
desert.
told someone to die.
Yeah, I think that was yeah, that wasn't that was a god apparently. But anyways, yeah, or like angel or prophet.
Hmm.
It's always revealed
Right.
that people have value and a purpose and some bullshit.
Hmm.
And so with Seven Oracles, I reverted it, and it's just like seven re revelations that each peeled away layers of human value until the very end, the last Messiah has her final message. And then with Sundrung, I wanted to move on from that, which was okay, well, if I just got done saying humans have no inherent value and trying to strike away at that narcissism that we have,
Hmm.
what is there to say after that? Which then goes into um, it's not always direct when you're making music.
Hmm.
But one of the ideas was that, well, if we have no inherent value, that doesn't mean we don't have responsibility. We don't create value and purpose, and because we still have agency, right? And Sundrung was just looking at the world and humanity from the same perspective that Nexion is, and saying, not only do we not have inherent value, but we are horrible members of the world community, whatever you want to call it. We are horrible.
We're bad neighbors.
We
That's how I always put it. We're awful neighbors.
Yeah, because we're pathological. We're horrible. We're the cause of the next great extinction.
Hmm.
I mean, so there you go. But we are horrible for the planet,
Hmm.
um,
When
and
we
to
don't need to be,
ourselves
and when we don't need to be, right?
when we don't need to be. No,
Hmm.
we don't need to be.
Yeah.
But of course, it's also not. It's not actually one conscious choice that turned us into this horrible species that we are.
Hmm.
But that was what. So Sundrung was sort of to look at that. So
Hmm.
not only, but we've also shirked any responsibility that we have to the world, and so Sundrung means it's an old Icelandic word.
Hmm.
It's the same as the English word sundering, but it has a different connotation
Hmm.
in Old Icelandic. It literally means discord, or it doesn't just mean sundering, but it means the ripping apart, and it does imply social and cosmic to where there is a point where things cannot come back together.
Hmm.
Things are irreparably ripped apart. That
Hmm.
is what sundrung is.
Okay.
Uh,
Hell yeah.
yeah. So it was the cap. I was like, oh, this is a nice word.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Excellent. I do also
Yeah.
imagine you made that noise, like when you thought of the name. You're like, ooh, I'll write that down.
I remember the noise I made, but it was so excited. It was probably a somewhat excited and then doubtful about it was probably dumb. Don't get your hopes up. And then I ran it past the band because I as an it's ironic because the whole band is Icelandic. I'm the one who's not Icelandic, and I am the one who is the expert in Old Norse religion and Old Norse culture and Old Icelandic and Icelandic language. Uh, but they still have a native understanding of how words work in a culture.
Hmm.
So I ran it past them. What does this mean to an average person listening to it?
Yep.
And I got pretty good feedback, and I was like, oh yeah, yeah, we're going with this. So
Hell yeah. So speaking
yeah.
of noises that Josh makes, throat singing. I've
I'm
seen
not
it.
gonna do it.
Yeah, so I have to take. No, you don't have to do it on the podcast, because I think Zoom might get mad at that anyway. Anytime I've had someone try and play an instrument, it just like silences it with the noise suppression.
Yep.
But so as an ethnomusicologist, I also have to see a lot of funny. I actually get a lot of enjoyment out of watching people sort of try and figure out what they're listening to when they hear throat singing but don't see it. And almost every time people think it's a didgeridoo. And it's a great guess, right? But especially in the context of Nexion, everyone's like, "Oh, I love the didgeridoo in this track. How did they get it to talk?" And I'm like, so just for the record, the sound, dear listener, that you're hearing in Sundrung is throat singing from our dear friend Josh. So, Josh, do you want to
Yes.
talk a little bit about? I mean, if you can, or if you want to, you can talk a little bit about just like what got you into throat singing in the first place, but or you can just keep it to this album in particular. Like what brought on putting throat singing in this album and in the style of music, which to me is like one of its most memorable elements.
Um, I decided to start throat singing because I wanted to be true to the ancient Nordic tradition of throat singing that our Viking ancestors did. That as you can hear when
Leaving.
Arabic travelers came to Scandinavia, they described them as growling and it sounded like dogs. And we all, of course, know that this was the ancient shamanic tradition in Scandinavia of throat singing. And I decided to bring that authenticity. Yes. No,
I've
no,
never, no, I have never had someone bullshit me so hard on my own podcast, knowing that they're making me die inside. So no, excellent setup. Thank you, Josh. And actually, if you will allow me real quick to do just a quick rant, even today in Arab languages, barking like dogs is an
yeah, we do
allegory for
terrible at
sounding like
singing.
shit.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yes.
still so like today, if you go to Iran or Iraq, if someone hears something bad, they will immediately compare it to barking dogs. If they hear something good, they compare it to the singing of birds. So, just to me, I just want to say, putting my own stamp on that, because this hasn't actually come up on the podcast yet, that you can choose to take that literally if you would like. However, I think it's far more likely that it was just, was that Altar Tucci, or
Yeah.
he
And he
was
said that
just,
they
yeah.
were, he was basically just saying that they're terrible at singing.
Yeah, he was just, and because, and also you get really into discussions of like, well, okay, well, what was good music to him? It was Mozarabic chant, right? And so if he was hearing
And
something that
it
wasn't,
was also probably a different scale as well.
yep, different just modalities and all of that. And so
Yeah.
instead of him saying how we would say this sucks ass, which by the way, in 1,000 years, do we want people to read our comments and be like, they were making music by sucking each other's asses? Like, no, like it's how we.
farts.
So it was like, anyway, that's my rant done. I just want to say we can take it literally if we would like, as Josh has brought up, or we
Glad
can
that I
just
was able to
accept that
hook
it
you
was
up
probably
with
just
that.
a way of saying it sucked. But Josh, please do continue.
Okay, so why I started throat singing. To be, well, ironically, I don't know if we've ever talked about this. I don't listen to the Nordic neo folk genre, whatever you want to call it. I don't listen to it.
Yep, you happen to be in the same room as it a lot, but you don't actively seek it out.
I tend to leave the room when it starts happening. And then I have friends who are musicians in the genre. I'll hang out with them afterwards. It's just not my thing.
Yeah, not your thing.
I do like Gap Ginunga, Varjuna's first album, and Yggdrasil. But aside from that, I am just not a fan of the genre. So I don't know why I went on. I just wanted to take shots, I guess.
No,
But
it's relevant. It's
no,
relevant, right?
it's because I wanted to set it up to explain that I didn't start doing it because I understand it's become very popular in this genre, and that's how I also know that there's a lot of people trying to say it's a Viking thing. Ironically, but the thing is, I don't listen to Viking throat singing. I do listen to a lot of Tibetan chanting and mantra chanting and Buddhist monks who are just doing throat singing mantras over and over and over again. I don't even really like Tuvan Mongolian throat singing.
Oh
It's
yeah, with
too
the
fucking
overtones.
happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too happy. And well, I like the fucking darkness of the I when I'm in the gym sometimes I will listen to Tibetan monks doing mantras, and it still makes me make the stink face that some of the that you make when you hear the most nasty riffs in metal because
Excellent.
it's gnarly.
Yeah.
I've always had a fascination with different types of vocal techniques that are outside of the ordinary. I love it. I think that's why I became a metal vocalist is because of course I like singing, but I'm really interested in different techniques of what the human voice can do. And so I've always been into throat singing because it's cool. I'm also into yoiking and a lot of indigenous Native American styles of singing because they're different scales. They're just very different. I also listen to a lot of Asian, like Japanese styles of singing that are like I like to listen to kabuki theater music
Hell yeah.
because it's so to my ears there's no timing and the vocal but I love it. It's just so different. And so yeah. And so I was very into throat singing since I was I don't even know. I think it's because when I was a it's never been a thing for me. When I was a kid, maybe listening to like Mayhem and singing along to like Die Mysteries Dom Satanas, like funeral fog, dun, 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 like, and you're basically throat singing. I mean, Attila throat sings. That's what
Hmm.
he's doing,
Yeah.
and it is a form of throat singing. So
Hmm.
for me, throat singing was sort of this associated with like gnarly, deep
Hmm.
monks doing stuff, and then like black metal with Attila. Although a lot of metal bands don't do throat singing.
Hmm.
But anyways, so long tangent. I hope it was at least entertaining.
Oh, it
But
was good.
good.
I'll
But
keep most of it in.
the reason I started doing it with Sundrung was it is one more voice in my toolkit
Hmm.
that I like that I get. I do it in ceremonies. It is a powerful vocal technique.
Hmm.
And it has a sacral sense to it, no
Hmm.
matter, it can have a sacral sense. The way that I do it in Nexion, I think creates a sort of sacral sense as
Hmm.
opposed to um, and so it just kind of, that's just what I fell on. It fit for chanting and for
Hmm.
creating a sense of solemn sacrality,
Hmm.
perhaps, and rituality, um, partially because of my life, my
Hmm.
background, and I guess because I associate it with like, yeah, monks chanting and
Yeah, it just has a sacred element to it that just
it does.
it
It
elevates
does, and it's a
something.
human voice, and I
Hmm.
have no interest in the cultural discussions about who does what, da 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 da. Zero. I mean, I have an interest to some degree, but I have no interest in the gatekeeping,
Yeah.
or pretending to justify, it's Nordic. Um,
Because both are
so
awkward. Both, yeah, both
both are
discussions get
awkward,
awkward. Yeah.
and both are yeah, yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah, especially
Um,
because it's so easy. I know because you just said you don't listen to this style of music, but Nils Edstrom from Hindarfjell, when he was on, he was telling me that he accidentally figured out how to throat sing because he whiffed singing a high note while trying to sing a Vardruna track. And he
yeah,
said, yeah, he said this on this podcast, so I know I'm allowed to tell this story.
yeah.
He tried to hit a really high note in, I think it was Helvegen, and his voice just fried, and all of a sudden he was throat singing, and he was like, "What the hell was that?" And he had never right, and so like that's why, at least to me, that's why the cultural, again, to the extent that I'm an ethnomusicologist, the cultural discussion interests me, but in terms of like who owns throat singing, I shocking the
Nobody
white guy
owns it.
isn't very interested in that conversation, right? But I because it's just such an easy sound to accidentally do. You know what I mean?
So that's kind of a point I will actually, as a step
Hmm.
outside of the vocalist and
Yeah.
into the world of being a anthropologist slash
Hmm.
historian slash expert on Old Norse religion,
Hmm.
and the fact of the matter is probably, not probably, definitely, all around the world, in all cultures, people have done that thing with their voice, that throat singing thing. People have done it because it's an easily
Hmm.
accessible part of the human voice. And especially in societies and cultures and that are not so nailed down on standards.
Hmm.
This is also why I like to listen to music that I'm not really big on folk music because
Hmm.
it just has this standard now, this Western standard.
Hmm.
I like finding indigenous or ethnic styles of stuff that is removed, that has not yet been brought into the standardized
I love it.
hegemony that is
Hmm.
boring as fuck.
Hmm.
Um,
Beautifully said.
so if you look at, for example, Scandinavia or Europe, before, I mean, you have thousands, you have a good 2,000 years between of from the supposed time of Christ to now.
Hmm.
I don't know how many thousands of years, 2,000 years, but you have about 1,000 until Christianity.
Hmm.
And then it doesn't matter because people are doing folk styles of doing vocals for many. I mean, you've heard rimur and Icelandic
Hmm.
traditional styles of
Hmm.
chanting and singing. They're quite different from standard folk music.
Hmm.
But in that time, you go into Scandinavia, you do not have one ethnic group. You have many ethnic groups. You have many communities, and inside of that, you have many little groups of people
Hmm.
doing things. And we know that, and they also did have a circumpolar connections with
Hmm.
other culture groups. I don't doubt that there were people that throat sang at some point. on accident or on purpose, and
Hmm.
maybe it was one or two guys, maybe it was maybe it was something that went on for generations. I mean, when we look at
Hmm.
the Gotland picture stones, this is a total side
No,
rant, but
excellent.
Gotland picture
I'm into it.
stones, people like to look at these picture stones that we always when you think of like rune stones,
Hmm.
the picture stones aren't rune stones, they're different, but people tend to think of those
Hmm.
in Gotland. And they went on for many hundreds of years. People think of them as one tradition, but they weren't one tradition. We know that the earliest ones started happening and then they stopped. And then a couple hundred years later, people literally saw them in the ground and went, I'm going to call on the past to do this thing. And so
Hmm.
they're actually creating a new tradition.
Hmm.
And then they stop. And then a couple hundred years later, people draw on that. The
Hmm.
point is, we're talking about traditions that rise and fall. They're only in one place. So people probably throat saying all around the world.
Hmm.
Uh, but it maybe never took off or became a big cultural thing.
Like a
Like,
standard practice. It
exactly.
was never like, oh, the Vikings went to school today and little Sven
Yeah.
learned his throat singing in throat singing class. It wasn't like
Exactly, exactly. It could have been. It could have been as far as like in this village, there's this one guy who's really bad at singing, but we like his Louis Armstrong way of
yeah.
chanting the runes. Through the so like, but but the point, yeah, yeah. So, anyways, I don't care about that. But yeah.
No,
So
fun tangent. I love it. So so
I feel like
throat
I didn't even
singing
get
in
to. I
Nexion.
think I answered your
Yeah.
question at some point, but I just like
Yeah.
to rant.
It's good, man. Yeah, yeah. But so yeah, so you just decided to add that to Nexion and it just like because you wanted to
I
add
didn't.
some sort of transcendent sound or quality to it.
No, I will say I don't think I didn't do it. It when I listen to music and when
Hmm.
I'm coming up with the lyrics and I'm coming up with it. So ironically, the very first thing that I do is kind of like what we were saying earlier. I don't actually come up with words. I just come up with noises that sound like they fit.
Excellent.
And then if I'm just playing with what feels, it taps into that part of me that feels like it resonates with the music.
Hmm.
And throat singing is one of many different things that I have and do. So
Hmm.
when I'm listening to the music, if I start throat singing to it, it's just because the music kind of brought that out of me.
Right.
And then I keep doing it or I throw it away and then put in something different. And if it stays, it eventually becomes this, it stays because it fits.
Hmm. Cool.
So,
Yeah, because I also noticed that sonic element of the album was also what was sort of like causing the most conversation around it. So now, if
yeah.
anyone is listening to this interview, now they know a little bit more about what they're listening to. It's not a didgeridoo. It is Josh's voice.
Ironically, I can't play the didgeridoo, so
Hmm.
I throat sing into a didgeridoo. Like if I'm at a party and I see a didgeridoo, I'll be like, hey, check this out. I can play didgeridoo. And then people will be like, well, you're pretty good at that.
You're
No,
like, yeah,
I
thanks.
can't even do it.
Yeah, it's like holding a book out, right? But it's your phone in the book, so people just think you're reading.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the
So,
last bit specifically about this album I wanted to ask you about is because back at I know this was the song you talked to the most about me when we were hanging out at Cascadia. The Visions of the Seventh Fire. If I could pick like one song to talk about, it would be this one. Sort of because then we could also get into talking about the blending of mythologies and story worlds and that sort of thing. But yeah,
yeah.
just what do you want to say about sort of like the story behind or the inspiration behind the Visions of the Seventh Fire, especially as it relates to what we already talked about what the album is about in general.
Yeah. That one is it's hard for me. I have to sort of I've always struggled with how much of the personal aspects I want to
Hmm.
bring into the public,
Right.
because it has a lot of very personal meaning to
Hmm.
me, in my own identity, and stuff as well.
Hmm.
Um, I'm a person of part indigenous background and
Hmm.
Euro descended background. Never felt like I was able to be really either,
Hmm.
which was one reason why when I was young, decided to start studying and researching and being into Old Norse religion and pagan stuff because
Hmm.
nobody owns it. It's sort of it's sort of safe. You can take it, and you see, because I was unable, I felt unable to access that other part of me.
Hmm.
And this is not about um blood percentages and bullshit like that. It has to do with lived experiences with my
Right.
grandfather, who
Of
was
course.
a centerpiece of my family, who was very important to me and who taught me things when I was young, that the things he taught me were what I'll give you an example.
Hmm.
One he once we were driving, and there was a snapping turtle, an alligator snapping turtle in the road. And so we got out to get off the road. And I just have this memory of that was when he told me the story of Sky Woman, who falls and is saved by geese and is
Hmm.
lowered onto the back of a turtle. And that's just one example of these things that the centerpiece of my family told me, that influenced me so much that it's what him and his stories are what set me off on a path.
Hmm.
My path was to end up studying because of my own identity crises
Hmm.
and stuff like that. I ended up going down this path and studying Old Norse religion, and now, of course, that's the path I took, and it's I don't regret it. Now I'm in a great position where, I mean, I love Old Norse religion, obviously.
You seem to be doing great.
Yeah, but yes, but I've also come a little bit full circle, where I've
Hmm.
been able to come a little bit to terms with myself
Yep.
as a person who is of different backgrounds, but some of those backgrounds to me feel inaccessible.
Hmm.
Um, um, and but there's this Anishinaabe prophecy, the seven fire prophecy, and
Hmm.
it's one part of, there's several steps, several prophecies. And this prophecy has always been so uh, powerful to me, yeah,
Hmm.
on a personal level. I'm not Anishinaabe,
Hmm.
um, but this prophecy uh, it speaks to the world. Part of it speaks to the Anishinaabe people, but part of it, I think, the world needs to hear, because it relates to everybody, part of it.
Hmm.
Um, and so people can look up the prophecy on their own. You know, you can Wikipedia it. Uh, um, but it's essentially, I mean, there's many things to it. So
Hmm.
um, nor obviously do I own this prophecy. Like
Right.
I said, I'm not Anishinaabe, but it has literally brought tears to my eyes.
Hmm.
It has moved me, and Sundrung, it's about decisions that need to be made by people, that we face a path right now, where you either choose the path of healing and reconnecting and knowledge and reestablishing broken relationships, and with each other, but also with the earth, or you keep being pathological and narcissistic, and devouring the planet and each other.
Hmm.
And we have a choice. And you know, and that's essentially part of what this prophecy points out. I mean, there's part that's directed for the Anishinaabe, and then there's part that's directed for um, I don't want to use the word white people, but especially because it's not just white people, it's
Everyone
all
else?
people.
I mean, like,
It's everyone, because
yeah. Hmm.
everyone is subject to this colonial mindset now, and also this highly industrialized, consumer-based, capitalistic way of thinking.
Hmm.
Everybody is thinking that way now. So I think it relates to everybody. But yeah, in the
Hmm.
prophecy, it's directed towards European descended people.
Hmm.
But the point is, they face a choice to
Hmm.
either learn they either take the right choices by listening to the elders and going back and learning, or they don't. And if they
Hmm.
take the wrong path, then the whole world is fucked.
Yep.
And if they take the right path, then we can start to heal. And I think that's as an outsider, hearing that prophecy, it has moved me so much.
Hmm.
I think partly because it's a people that I am not able to access, but I feel an affinity for
Hmm.
uh, because of a personal. You see, and there's this,
Hmm.
but I'm not allowed. So I'm sort of in this weird in between,
Hmm.
like this sort of like trickster figure, um, to fucking things up.
Yep.
So, but it's just always. I think it's something that people need to hear.
Hmm.
Um, and it's always, but I didn't want to tell that. So it's a prophecy. It's there. Um, and I decided I wanted to come up with this song because Sundrung is about choices. I mean, the opening of the open of the album is a curse essentially for defiling that which is sacred. But in Old Norse prophecy is set up in a similar way as Old Norse curses,
Hmm.
um, where essentially the speaker says, "I see XYZ will happen." Unless XYZ happens. So the best example of that is in Skitnasmal, where
Hmm.
he is the Old Norse poem where he threatens this uh, Jotun woman, and if she he doesn't threaten her, he curses her,
Hmm.
but he can take it all back if she listens. And he's not the only. There's also rune sticks that do the same thing.
Hmm.
You have this element, and the point is, we have this. It's a part of the old Nordic formula. So I
Right.
start off Sundrum with a similar. I am creating this prophecy that's also a curse, and at the end is the final totality of what can happen.
Hmm.
Um, and that was essentially it's a vision of the seventh fire. So it's a vision. There's many. I can't see the future. None of us can, but it's a vision of what could happen from a Nordic perspective. Because in
Hmm.
the Nordic world, story world, Ragnarok is essentially there's many ways to interpret it, but one of the things Ragnarok is the final conclusion of severed relationships. When relationships begin to break, whether it's between each other, individuals, brother's bane, family bonds are broken apart, or humans and the local landscape, the non-human, because we're all in the Nordic way of the Old Norse way of looking at things, it's all one community.
Hmm.
One of the words for the gods is bund, which means bonds, that which binds things together.
Hmm.
When they start to break apart, eventually you get that cascade effect and everything collapses, societal collapse. That's Ragnarok.
Hmm.
So I sort of vision of the seventh fire is this. I know I'm taking a long time to tell
No,
this
you're good,
story,
man. You're
but
good. That's why I have you here. It'd be weird if I invited you onto a podcast and then told you to shut up. You know what I mean?
that's true. That's true. Oh, oh, this is a podcast? I thought this was a YouTube show. All right, anyway,
Okay.
anyways,
I
let
thought
me
we were just
continue my
hanging out.
tale. So, yeah. Oh shit, I thought we were just chatting. Um, Visions of the Seventh Fire, I just had this what it's a vision of what if we drop my ring. We reach a point where we took the black path and we didn't listen to the warnings. We
Hmm.
didn't listen to the people who are saying you're creating cataclysm.
Hmm.
Um, and you eventually reach a point where it's too late. There is no more voices that you can call out to. There are no more elders who can teach you. There are the only thing, and that's why there's lyrics in Visions of Seventh Fire where Snake is biting himself, and the eagle can't see,
Hmm.
and the I don't remember my own lyrics. The winds, I have to sing them to know them. But the winds the mountains are
Hmm.
gnashing their broken teeth, and the world is so sick that nature is backwards. That's, it's metaphoric, but
Hmm.
it's also quite literal
Yep.
that when nature is sick, I mean, invasive species don't know what they're doing.
Hmm.
Um, they're just following instinct, but they're broken because we broke them.
Hmm.
Um, so you reach that point where there is nothing but misery, and people just cry out for all that there is left at that point, which is destroying fire to just end like surtur
Yep.
to just bring it and just like consume it all, burn it
Hmm.
away, and maybe from the world funeral pyre, a ring will fall anew, like
Hmm.
Draupnir falls from the funeral pyre,
Hmm.
and maybe the cycle, a different cycle, a new cycle can start. Maybe. So it's a very it's a bleak vision. It's yeah, I mean that's part of what metal is. It's looking at the darkest and the most extreme,
Hmm.
and it's also part of bringing that part out of us.
Yep. Creating with it,
So
not running from it, but
exactly.
creating with it.
E- exactly, and that's what this is.
Hmm.
It's so it was very emotional song for me on a
Yeah, I mean,
personal
like I can
level.
feel the emotion the whole time. I mean, like, and that's to me, it feels funny because a lot of people are like, oh, it's just screaming or whatever. But at least to me, as someone who's been listening to this music my whole life, right, I can
Yeah,
immediately tell when someone's doing something rote because it's just
yeah,
like, all right, let's do. And then I can tell when a vocalist is
yeah,
screaming or growling from a
yeah,
place of genuine
yeah.
passion. And that's to me
There's
what
a
makes a difference.
there's a the middle part of the song where I'm yelling "Snake bites itself" in the yoga
Hmm.
section. I did in one take. I think it was the first take. Usually I take many takes.
Hmm. A man of
But
culture.
this yes. But because I was choked up. I was
Hmm.
genuinely emotional when I was doing it. And then I did other takes, but I was like, no, it was that first one because the more you do something, it becomes repetitive.
Hmm.
You lose that raw feeling. It
Hmm.
becomes a habit.
Hmm.
And the first take was so pure. I hear my I can hear the flaws in it,
Yeah.
but they're also true to how
Hmm.
I felt. So I that's that take. So yeah. But then so yeah, so Vision of the Sunfire is a vision of this world. So it's not the Anishinaabe prophecy, but it's an ode to it. And
Hmm.
if anybody bought the
Ah.
album, they will see that there is a special thank you to the Anishinaabe
Hmm.
people, that song is dedicated to them.
Hmm.
Um, so but you only see that if you bought the album in
It's
physical
on it's
format.
it's on my Bandcamp wish list. Give me time. That's so much. But no,
How about
absolutely no. I love that you're talking about this, man. I mean, like that was just a beautiful story.
thank you.
That's why I wanted to tee you up for talking about it because just the way you talked to me about it a few months ago, I was just like, man, this is good shit.
That was
But do
before
you?
you even heard the song.
Yeah, I mean, like that was just from hearing the concept, and I was like, okay, sign me up.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
do you have any more
cool.
like general reflections though of like mixing? Maybe mixing isn't the best word in this conversation, but or maybe yeah, blending
Um,
mythologies or story worlds because you don't see that often.
yeah,
Normally people pick a team. You know what I mean?
yeah,
They pick a flag, they pick a hill, and they die on it. So I that's something that I actually found really refreshing about this is the fact that it's like blending a lot of these, as scholars we can use the word syncretic or whatever, but like the fact that
yeah.
you're seeing these common threads, right? These commonalities between these story worlds and sort of
Mm.
weaving them together. Is there
Mm.
anything else you want to say on that? Because that's just something I found really refreshing about the actual like themes and content of the music.
Yeah, I have a few things to say about it.
Mm-hmm.
But before I do, I'm going to make a final point about what
Okay.
we were talking
Oh,
about,
please.
only because I think it's important.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave talking about
Mm-hmm.
the album. That's the last song on the album. I don't want to leave it without the most important part,
Mm-hmm.
which are the very
Please.
last words on the
Mm-hmm.
album, which refers right back to the very first song, which is that which I say I can't unsay, and that which has been carved can be uncarved, turn back.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is, and it's also accompanied by two stanzas from Völuspá, where the Cirrus sees, the vulva sees a new world beginning, and the eagle is hunting for fish,
Mm-hmm.
and grass is growing again. And then I also added, they're not together in the poem, but I also put the other stanza where the serpent is rising and the
Mm-hmm.
corpses are hanging from him. And those two parts cycle, and they sort of go in a circle. Um,
Hell yeah.
to sort of turn the album, for me, it turned the album into a thing that is just cyclic, that just goes. I mean, yes, thank you. So to me, that was important, and it needed to refer back to the beginning, and it just needed to.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I felt like I would have failed the whole idea of the album at its heart is trying to pull from back to story worlds and stuff like that, and
Hmm.
ways of thinking or knowledge systems. I felt like if I created an album that's drawing from traditional knowledge systems, I would have failed if it wasn't cyclic in itself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
If I created this linear album it would have not had the knowledge that I'm trying to give. So
Excellent,
even though it's a
man.
black metal album.
Beautiful.
So so the
This
syncreticity
this the syncreticism.
yes. The so if you read the lyrics, there's one thing is that like back to I when I was terrified to sing about Nordic stuff
Hmm.
because I didn't want to be called Viking metal, which I am so glad not a single review site has said, Nexion brings the Viking metal. No,
There are no
nobody has done
horns and no hammers. As long as you
it. Oh,
avoid horns and hammers, I think you're good.
yeah, that
I think that's
maybe.
it.
I don't know. But if I mention Odin once, or yeah, you also can't say anything about sword. Well, no, our album cover has a sword, but the album cover is so removed from anything Viking, although it's completely Nordic. But
That's how tropes work. It's like ironically the most Nordic thing, but because it doesn't have the tropes, it
yes,
doesn't fit.
that's kind of so. And this is so. The thing was, I one of the things that made me say I'm going to talk about. I need to do the Nordic stuff because that's my passion. That's my
Hmm.
knowledge.
Hmm.
If I'm not drawing from that, I'm not giving myself.
Yep. It's what you
Uh,
know.
yes,
Yep.
but I mean, and I also know other stuff, and that's
Hmm.
where the other stuff gets woven in. But this
Hmm.
is the base, and but I know this is where the arrogant vocalist comes in. Oh, this
Bring
arrogant
it.
Josh coming in. Um, I, like I look at Viking metal and pagan metal
Hmm.
and these neo-Nordic bands, excluding a very small
Hmm.
handful that
Hmm.
includes like Einar,
Hmm.
and some others. I don't want people to
Yeah,
get
I
mad
know.
at me. There's a few others, but by and large, this genre is full of people that are saying that they're singing about old Nordic spirituality and Nordic stuff, but they're following tropes, and it actually most of it reflects popular perceptions as
Hmm.
opposed to the knowledge system that
Hmm.
people are trying, or some of us are trying to bring back and show
Hmm.
this knowledge system is still relevant, right?
Hmm.
And I was like, well, I do have that knowledge. I am passionate about that. This is the stuff that you will get me ranting about
Hmm.
all day long at a music event if I can
Hmm.
trap you in a corner, or if you can read my
It's
posts
what
on
I look
social media.
forward to the most.
So I can bring out the depth. I felt
Hmm.
that I could bring out the depth of what is important without and stripping away the stereotypes and the tropes.
Hmm.
And actually in some ways I played with it on purpose
Hmm.
to break tropes. For example, Hymn of the Valkyrie, the song, is intentionally named that to evoke this idea that people have today of the Valkyries as these busty hot ladies that come down but the song is gnarly. The lyrics are probably the most gnarly lyrics on the
I love it.
album.
I love it.
Um, Thank you. And the album cover, I mean, in
Hmm.
some ways she's a Valkyrie, in some ways she's a death goddess. She's a little bit of both, but it's
Hmm.
inspired by Danaðioth, the Old Norse poem where Valkyries are weaving entrails and bringing death. And the point was, yeah, let's evoke that idea of Valkyries and then create the nastiest, most
Hmm.
foul song. I mean, let's call the names of Valkyries and tell them that their wolves are ripping out like after I don't remember the lyrics. There's something about our chorus where they're eating babies, dead children or something. Like, hold on, your wolf falls and rips out the tongues of dying babies, rips out the tongues of dying babes. So
Hmm.
like, because I'm singing about war
Hmm.
and the atrocities of what we do.
Hmm.
That's what Valkyries are, the death spirits,
Hmm.
fucking hot ladies.
Wagner singers. I
But
mean, it's all from Wagner, right? I mean,
yeah, but Wagner, I'm not going to objectify. I was just going to say I'm not attracted to the Wagner-esque type lady.
yeah, but no, I think what you're saying though is like it's very interesting, right? Because and I'm not as cynical as you, right? And we've established this between. I'm a lot more like a golden retriever, and you're the cat. You know what I mean? Like this is kind of like how our dynamic has been set up. Anytime we hang out, or like I'm down to just like chill and play fetch. You know what I mean? And so for me, I'm in this space where like I get everything you're saying, but then I see, and I did this post about folk art the other day, where like I'm
Mm,
really interested in just like exactly what you're talking about. There
mm,
is the hardcore history, not even hardcore. There's like the history, like the actual yeah, the scholarship, the academic way of looking at this cultural heritage. Um,
mm,
but then there's also the fact that we are right now in
mm.
what can be called a Viking revival, right? That started with
Right.
the TV show. It was kind of precipitated by World of Warcraft and Skyrim, but then it hit pop culture with the TV show, which itself was relying on a lot of Victorian era tropes, right? I mean, like in the Victorian era, right? You have Thomas Gray, who are writing these poems that read exactly like Amon Amarth lyrics today, but from 150 years ago, right? So in a
Yeah.
lot of ways, we're in this thing where we're sort of like seeing two Viking ages exist at the same time. The one that came down to us from the Victorian era and Wagner, and the one that comes down to us through cultural heritage, archaeology, academic study, and all of that. And so we have like, on one hand, Nexion's Hymn of the Valkyries, but then we have like a Viking music band's Hymn to the Valkyries, which is a lot more romantic, right? And so
I'm
we're in
sure
this.
Monomarch must have a
Oh, they
song
do.
that has
Oh, they
something to do with
have. Oh,
Valkyries.
it
I
bangs
do know the
too.
lyrics
Yeah.
too. I will what do you say? Like, as I die,
Oh,
I hold
yeah.
my sword. Well, no, that's when he prays the Odin. Like,
Oh,
oh wait, like,
no,
oh
yeah.
fuck,
That's in
what
the
does he
very
say?
first album. Yeah, very first album.
Yeah, but he says like the heavens open and Valkyries in shining armor.
And that's Wagner. That
Jesus!
and here, two things are true at the same time. That's Wagner, and it's fucking awesome. Like that song rips, right?
It
And they
was
didn't.
awesome. I will okay, so and we haven't even really man tangents, and I will get to this fusion of ideas.
Yeah.
But I have a couple important points.
Hmm.
The first is well, uh I give Amon Amarth a lot of lenience that I
Hmm.
don't give a lot of other stuff.
Hmm.
I will you know I am brutal with my opinions on bands that are in this neo-Nordic
Hmm.
folk.
Yep.
Brutal, scathing,
Yep.
hate-filled, and much more forgiving of Amon Amarth. And the
Hmm.
reason is Amon Amarth, although to be fair, I haven't listened to an album by Amon Amarth since like Fate of Norns, but but
You haven't really missed
but
much. I know I'm gonna get a
but
lot
when
of
I
flack
oh
from my own
yeah, but
listeners. Yeah, it's been a bit.
I was a big fan of One Cent from Golden Hall
Hmm.
and the early stuff,
Hmm.
because mostly because it's just really good death metal.
Hmm.
Uh, and they would always say, at least back then, they would always say, we are a death metal band
Hmm.
who sing about Vikings. The way that kind of, I think Johan Hegg once said, like Cannibal Corpse sings about zombies, we sing about Vikings. It's
Hmm.
all fun fantasy.
Hmm.
They have always been fantasy and fun. Their art
Hmm.
has always been super cheesy and horns and like very Conan-esque and
I couldn't
like
bring myself to get their last tour shirt. I saw them with Cannibal Corpse at Red Rocks. I couldn't get the T-shirt because it was just so camp. like even
Yeah,
too camp for
yeah.
me.
Monomarth
Like,
has always been camp.
it's what it's about.
But
I mean,
there's
that the first video of the Twilight of the Thunder God at Vakken, where he brings up that giant foam hammer, that I'm just like,
yeah, I mean, this what it's. I mean, they are bringing a sort of metal heritage
mhm.
that's there in like the early like it's like power metal and black or not black
Guar.
metal but like death metal and the Guar. Well, I was thinking of another band that his name I can't. It doesn't matter. But it's like larger than life, cheesy to
Mhm.
be cheesy,
Mhm.
over the top. There is that aspect in metal. It's
Mhm.
always been
Yeah,
there.
the spectacle.
Uh, yeah, yeah, and the spectacle, yeah, yeah, exactly, and they've always been like that.
Mhm.
Then they exploded in popularity, and people took them very serious, and people started to identify themselves with that. And now I don't have an opinion on how Amon Amarth themselves have reacted to that
Mhm.
because I don't really know, but I am a lot more lenient towards Amon Amarth, who are a death metal band that sing not fun anymore, but I suppose it's fun for the kids these days to put their back into the ore or some bullshit. I don't fucking know. But anyways, I don't know. I once saw people doing it. I went, what the fuck is this? But
Yep.
anyways, so but I'm a little bit more lenient.
Mhm.
Anyways,
Yep.
the other point I wanted to make was that I'm not if you read the lyrics to Nexion,
Mhm.
to Sundrung. I'm not singing about history. I'm not singing about Old Norse religion. I'm not singing about Old Norse mythology. If I was doing, to me, you're talking about the revival of the
Mhm.
old, you said the Viking Age,
Mhm.
but actually the Viking Age itself is a modern, manufactured, made up thing.
Mhm.
Um, Back then it was just, and it wasn't a world full of Vikings either. It was people living and interacting and stuff. We have
Mhm.
created this box that we then projected ideas onto.
Yep.
But it's important to me to show that the knowledge system that was there,
Mhm.
it's it is still relevant. It is still it was and what has been brought to us, it still has things to say if we can understand it from the right perspective, which is
Mhm.
why I say people need to understand anthropology and they really need to understand what we are very lucky that in the last couple decades, especially the last 2 decades, to have a lot of indigenous and traditional uh, anthropologists and
Mhm.
speakers, researchers who of culture who also have the voice of a person who comes from a traditional society, as well as people who aren't indigenous but are just really great anthropologists who have spent time studying animism and traditional
Mhm.
societies and stuff like that. You begin to understand that around the world, these types of ways of thinking, researchers of Old Norse religion and old religions have been actually saying this for a long time. But the academic terminology wasn't quite there. It's
Mhm.
been developing to now it's all coming together where
Mhm.
researchers of Old Norse religion and researchers and members of indigenous communities are using the same terms to refer to ways of being.
Mhm.
And this is how Old Norse religion was in many ways.
Mhm.
And my point is that to me, it's about showing that that knowledge is still relevant. So
Mhm.
I'm not singing about Vikings. I'm singing about right now.
Mhm.
In fact, Sundrung is not an album about the past. Uh, every song is I'm playing with the story worlds, as you put it. But I'm bringing them to talk about right now. I
Mhm.
wanted Sundrung to be a testament to the human experience right now.
Mhm.
Uh, and so that's what Sundrung is. Um, and hopefully, and what I would like to do is try to create, if we're living in a second Nordic revival, which we are, I want to, me and others, we want to bring that knowledge system. We yes, we live right now, but that doesn't mean that we need to if you don't understand the knowledge system that you're looking into or that you're creating, you simply continue to operate in the same way that you were thinking. So
Mhm. We see a lot of
hyper
that, don't we?
individualist, post postmodern, all the symptoms of the modern world that are
Mhm.
destructive and terrible.
Mhm.
Um, People, if you're not aware and trying to find a different knowledge system, you just recreate it under
Hmm.
a different guise.
Hmm.
So so that's why and now I'm getting into my own PhD because this is actually what my own PhD is about.
Yep.
The dangers of, or not the dangers, but the in Ásatrú and in neo-paganism and in
Hmm.
this revival, not always, but large swaths of this movement is simply a reflection of the modern world in a microcosm of the macrocosm. It's you
Hmm.
can look at a typical neo-pagan community
Hmm.
or also true community, and in many ways you will see the larger world stuff reflected in that.
Hmm.
So it's just perpetuating all the stuff people are trying to get away from. As and I don't mean every group, I don't mean every
Yep.
person,
Hmm.
but this is one of the problems that a lot of people are trying to overcome.
Hmm.
Um, so yes, so so I'm trying to bring that,
Hmm.
and Sundrung is from my aspect, from my perspective, an attempt to do that.
Hmm.
Um, but it's the very not everything that I do is dark, uh, because I also do ceremonies,
Yep.
and I do blow. I'm a Hovgodi. I'm recognized by the Norwegian government as
Mm.
a man of the cloth. Uh, the I'm a ritual. There's not a word for it. Like
Hmm.
priest is not the right word, but a
Hmm.
hovgodi, the one who does the ceremonies, one of the ones who are designated to do ceremonies in the also true community here.
Hmm.
Um, so and when I my rituals in that are not dark. They can be, but they're not so pessimistic
Yep.
because you need both.
Hmm.
You need the ability to destroy and be aggressive, but you also need the to be able to try and create healing.
Hmm.
But I don't do that in Nexion. Nexion is about the destructive aspects. And it's cathartic. But anyways,
Oh
that's
yeah.
a bit of a tangent. Now I'm going to try to answer the
The question
blending.
we've all been waiting for.
Do I want to say anything else about the blend? Yeah. Well, so I mean, I was kind of getting around to it. I
Yeah,
mean,
I feel like
the
you
one thing
were.
I'm
I
not
feel
saying
like
about
that
like
wasn't really a tangent. I feel like that really was sort of like getting at the issue from a lot of different
yeah,
perspectives. Yeah.
building things up.
Hmm.
You need the foundation.
Yeah.
Every conversation I have is like a fucking thesis. But
Oh god, we have two PhD students having a conversation. This is never gonna end.
my band will never they will never listen to this conversation. They 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 don't let me. No, but so what I did not want to stick to the Nordic thing.
Hmm.
I didn't want to. I wanted to not create logic rules at all anymore.
Hmm.
I wanted to let it work with itself.
Right.
Um, and so the Hymn of the Valkyries,
Hmm.
that song, it's the end of it has we're chanting lines from Daralioth, as I said.
Hmm.
But the song, if you read the lyrics, it's not singing about Old Norse religion. I wrote that song. There's a lot of reasons, but one of the
Hmm.
things is it's a reflection of um, our bloodthirsty nature that
Hmm.
we create every time it seems like mankind has the opportunity to try and create peace. Some power-hungry narcissist creates war,
Hmm.
or and just we just always um, so like yeah, so it's a reflection on that.
Right.
It's not a song about Dorothy
Hmm.
or Valkyries.
It's using them as a
Valkyries are dead.
perspective. Or
Right,
yeah.
right. Um, one of the I think when Raven steals the sun, uh, that song you will not find. It's not a myth that exists. It's a but it is drawing on so
Two
it's a
different Raven
conversation.
myths, right?
Yeah, but yeah, it's a conversation between a raven and a corpse, a dead person.
Hmm.
And the dead person sort of represents sort of the last of us.
Hmm.
So like we've all fucked ourselves and now we're dying and now there's a raven picking at our skull
Hmm.
and they're having a conversation. And the raven is a trickster figure around the world. They're
Hmm.
so smart. They're so clever. They're also an omen of they are so many things,
Hmm.
but they're also a creator spirit in many ways.
Hmm.
Um, None of the myths that were passed down to us from, now remember, Norse mythology is not the myths and stories that existed prior to Christianity. It's what little pieces we have
Hmm.
that have been written down after Christianity. But
Hmm.
you can draw from those and get a broader understanding of what other forms of stories would have existed. And Odin is never described as a raven. He turns
Hmm.
into an eagle, but he never turns into a raven.
Hmm.
But he is a raven. One of his, he is a raven deity in many ways. I mean, his mind and his memory are ravens. So he is a raven in a degree, to a degree.
Wait,
So
it's all ravens? Always has been.
so ravens. Um, and so, but and there's just yeah. So he, of course, sort of creates the world.
Hmm.
Well, him and others. The Raven plays a part in the creation of the world in the Nordic
Hmm.
story world. And then you have this Haida story, Northwest Pacific Northwest people, where this is a crazy. I mean, This is not what the song is about, but I'll
Hmm.
tell you this.
Yeah.
And when you have the knowledge of both of these sitting in your head and you're trying to write a song about a raven, there's no way of avoiding that they're gonna come
Hmm.
together in some degree. So there are many versions of this Haida story,
Hmm.
but one of the versions is where the world is dark. I don't remember why, but the world is dark, and there's a giant who has taken the light and put it inside of a box. That's inside of a box inside of a box. And Raven wants to get the light. I
Hmm.
don't remember all of the details, but Raven wants to get the light because it's shiny, of course,
Hmm.
and he's greedy. Um, and he decides to turn himself into a seed or something like that. The giant has a daughter.
Hmm.
The Raven turns himself into a seed, falls into her tea or her drink or something, and she drinks him, and he impregnates her with himself, and then she gives birth to himself. It's like the reverse of Odin. Uh, so like she gives birth to him. Now he's a baby.
Hmm.
And he wants to play with the boxes and he cries and cries and cries. And the giant is like, okay, play with the box. And then he takes the box off. And then slowly but surely the raven reveals down to there's just one box left and the light is in it.
Hmm.
And then when he sees his chance, he turns into a raven, gets in the box, steals the light, flies away. The giant turns himself into an eagle and chases after the raven,
Hmm.
chases him across the night sky, almost catches him. The raven is fighting to get away, almost catches him, and the raven panics. And when the raven panics, he spills some of the light, and it falls and becomes the stars and the moon. Um, and I don't rem and I think, but I might be wrong, that like the rest of the light he fixes as the sun.
Okay.
But like but like the parts that spilled are the moon and the stars.
Beautiful.
In Old Norse mythology or Old Norse religion, Odin wants this ecstatic creative power
Hmm.
that we call Odrir.
Hmm.
Um, so it's being guarded by the daughter of a Jotun. So now he doesn't turn himself into a seed. He goes down, he seduces her. It's very similar. Seduces her, uh, and then she offers him the drink. First chance he gets, he takes it, transforms himself into an eagle, flies away. So the Jotun, I'm bad with names.
Hmm.
The Jotun turns into an eagle, chases
Hmm.
Odin. Almost catches him, almost catches him, almost catches him. When he almost catches Odin, Odin panics uh, and either shits out or spills some of the mead. And the mead is odor, and that falls to the earth. And of course, that's actually the source of bad. Well, Snorri says that's bad poets, but it's more than poetry. It's a stored form of ecstatic knowledge, right?
Hmm.
And then he has the good, and it's actually also creative knowledge,
Hmm.
the ability to create. these two myths, they did not come from a same source. They didn't branch from each other. It's just traditional knowledge in one part of the world and traditional knowledge in the other part of the world, and that have similarities.
Hmm.
But they're so similar that it's very hard not
Yeah, it's
to
hard not
bring
to
them.
tangle those two together. Like,
Yeah,
if you were to ask me, I'd be like, yeah, it's the same story, just told at different points. Like,
yep,
that's how it
yeah,
seems to
exactly.
me. Yeah.
And in different places. And this is the
Hmm.
story of Raven.
Hmm.
Because that's at the end of the day, remove the human aspect. I mean, this is just humans putting symbolism onto Raven,
Hmm.
uh, to help. It's our understanding of Raven and the way that
Hmm.
Raven speaks to us, just in
Yep.
different parts of the world.
Hmm.
And so the song is not about Norse, it's not about Odin, or it's about Raven, who has had a hand in creating the world, who took the light in the beginning of time,
Hmm.
who has done all these things, who reflects nature. And he's basically just bragging to the corpse that like, and he's using Volgald, uh, corpse
Corpse
summoning
skull.
magic
Or okay, yeah,
and
yeah.
chanting, yeah, to speak to the dead, and he's speaking to the dead, which is an Odin thing, and bragging about how well you have fucked up,
Hmm.
but and even in your arrogance, you say the wolf will devour the sun, because in Norse, the wolf devours the sun, but he won't devour the sun because I am Raven, and I'm gonna steal the sun, and the cycle will continue. Don't worry, nature will continue,
Hmm.
but you won't be here because you fucked up. So that's basically what the song is about.
Beautiful, man.
So, yeah. And then, I mean, I find one thing really funny is that a lot of, you probably saw this too, a lot of people in comments of reviews like to point out, like, what is the album cover? Is it Hindu? And then because of the arms, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it doesn't do well. I think this is cool, but like this also goes to the point where you're like, I don't care about the trying to create some sense of like cultural essentialism. In
Hmm.
fact, I want to destroy cultural essentialism,
Yeah.
and create something that is more universal, but also has that knowledge that
Hmm.
is preserved. So, uh, you've probably heard that at the very beginning of Visions of the Seventh Fire, there is an intro with a sitar,
Oh, yep.
and it's a very it evokes
Hmm.
Hinduism in India, and but the eight arms of the destroying goddess on the cover,
Hmm.
who could be Freya in her destroying form, it could be a Valkyrie, but um, her. And the sitar, I can understand why somebody who might think
Hmm.
that, but it's actually the reason that there's a sitar is because we wanted we had created part of it, and the drums were doing this very rhythmic thing,
Hmm.
and there's the fire, which actually Shel Broughton, uh he he created the fire sounds. It's actually in the BPM, the
Excellent.
firecracker. Yeah. So it's there, and we just wanted another. And our drummer was like, "My friend plays sitar." We were like, "Yeah, that's cool."
Hell
So
yeah.
it was about working with, using that syncretism and using with what
Hmm.
you have, and not trying to stick to some
So,
bogus
yeah, some
idea of culture.
prescribed recipe of like how to make the proper album, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
So, there's no oh no, I forgot what it's called. What are those things called in the in the music
Oh,
that you listen
Toggle
to that I
Harpa or
don't? There's
Yohiko
no
or whatever.
there's no Takla harps in this album. Yeah, that's a guitar.
Yeah, Josh.
That was
Well, I gotta say, man, one of the reasons I'm really stoked to have you on is because breaks the echo chamber a little bit, because I really like that you're critical of these things that typically we talk about on this channel that are, not in not such a critical way. I mean, like I have a critical streak here, And I know probably some people listening just tuned out when we started, having this last bit of the conversation where we were sort of like being a little critical and jabbing a little bit at this music. But the reason that I think it's important to have this conversation, even if we ultimately are of two minds of it, is because these are conversations that are important to have where two people have different perspectives on something. The last thing I want is for this podcast to be a circle jerk podcast about toggle harpas. You know what I mean? So that's why I really enjoyed, having you on to talk about all this stuff. Because it's really important to keep things from becoming an echo chamber.
Yeah, I need more people in my chamber to echo. No,
Yeah, dude,
no,
it's a rough time to be a scholar of Old Norse religion while this is like the music, and you just
yeah, awful.
don't jive with it.
No, I really don't. I have a. I think you've heard. Yeah, you have heard part of it, but there will be reveals. I have
we
a side
will
project.
we will have plans for that because
Yeah,
yeah. Anyway, Josh,
yeah.
thank you so much for coming on the Nordic Sound, man. Really appreciate finally having you on here.
Yeah, it was
Talking
fun.
about this dope ass album. So yeah, man, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thanks
Hopefully it wasn't too
for.
painful for you too.
I don't know, just hopefully it's not painful for the listener listening to me ramble about ramble on and on about how much I hate the things that they love.
I think it's good for us. I think it's good for us. No, man, seriously, no, it's great. And thank you for making the time. I know it was difficult with again, not to open any fresh wounds, but everything you went through the last couple weeks and all that.
Oh my God.
I really appreciate you making the time, man. So where can people find you if they want to learn more about you? Or if they just want to follow the stuff
Me
you do?
or Nexion?
Yeah, Nexion and you.
Uh, I'm sure you'll link the stuff, but I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
I have plans for Eagle on the Ash.
cool.
I do plan on building it into something of a platform. I just want to really let it codify first. But
Hmm.
until then, just find me on Eagle on the Ash Instagram
Hmm.
or Eagle on the Ash Facebook, or I mean there's my personal Facebook that I'm terrible at gatekeeping and I really should just kick most of everybody off of it and let it be more but you could try and send me a friend request there. But there's Eagle on the Ash and there's that. And then of course there's Nexion, which is on all streaming. I mean,
Hmm.
sound of it. But if you buy the album, buy it from our website,
Hmm.
not from the label.
Hmm. Is Bandcamp? Does that count as you or the label?
Bandcamp is us. If
Cool.
it's our Bandcamp, then it's
Hmm.
us. If
Cool.
it's our label's Bandcamp, then it's them. But which you'll know. But the point is, but we have a website.
Hmm.
Don't actually, if you're gonna buy anything from us, don't buy it from our Bandcamp. I tried disabling that, but somehow people are still magically ordering. We have our warehouse and
Hmm.
everything operates through the website.
Hmm.
So if you order from our Bandcamp, other than the digital,
Hmm.
that's fine. But the if you want physical, buy it from our website. So you can, I'm sure you'll link our website.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's where
So
I think a lot more people are. It's funny because I've been shit talking Spotify since I actually started this podcast like 5 years
yeah,
ago,
yeah,
and I even end all of my music appreciation classes the very last day talking about how awful our current music industry is.
yeah. And then
And now I'm
recommend Spotify.
finally, and then I have to use Spotify when I'm trying to engage with like through this kind of because
Right.
everyone uses it, but we hate it. But I am glad that now we finally seem to be seeing a better push. This is the strongest push I've ever seen towards looking at alternatives. So I would 100% advocate if you want to streaming your favorite artist a million times still wouldn't even give them as much support as buying an album. So if anyone
No,
wants to
it
listen,
really wouldn't.
yeah,
Yeah, like 2 years worth of streaming our shit on Spotify got us like 2 cases of beer. I don't remember. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it was like useless,
no, I
useless.
know the feeling. Yeah, I know. So yeah, I likewise because even though I'm a much more niche musician, I've made far more money from people buying my stuff from Bandcamp than I have from
Yeah,
like all the streams on Spotify and all that. So, but
yeah,
anyway, yes. So if you want to support Nexion, go to their website, which I will link in the description. But otherwise, Josh, hang around after I stop the recording. But thank you for coming around, and we'll see you next time for that secret project we'll talk about in the future. All right.
yes.